I'm the only white face in this area. You don't belong here. Stop, I'll shoot you in the back.
Yo, what's up, guys? Here we are again on Locked Up with Copville. I have an amazing guest this week, Sgt Mattingly, who is a Louisville Metro police officer and involved in one of the major incidents that started this bullshit fucking cancel culture of police, and just in the middle of all that nonsense. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everybody the incident you were involved in.
Hi, Mike. Appreciate you having me, man. So yeah, I'm Sgt Mattingly. Did 21 years on the Louisville Police Department. Had a great career. Loved it up until 2020. And then we kind of got caught right in the midst of all the political bullshit that was going on, the hurricane that happened with, they kind of tied our case. We were in March. The Breonna Taylor incident was March. Then you had Ahmaud Arbery in April. And then you had the pinnacle George Floyd in May. And they kind of conflated all those cases together to be, a bunch of white guys are running around killing black people. Yeah. And each case was totally different. One of them didn't even involve police, but man, you would have thought it did in 2020. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We were simply asked to help out with a warrant. Wasn't our case. They needed bodies because they had 5 warrants going at the same time. 3 of them simultaneously with SWAT doing a couple of them. They needed the other door hitters hit the other one. So we volunteered for it, which in retrospect may have been a huge mistake, but here we are. There's nothing you can do about it once you cross that bridge.
And I'm sure we see it, but you have got to have the pinnacle example of how the fucking media and all the bullshit gets spun once they get a hold of a case like this. And I'm going to let you expand on that, but I know the details of it, but I don't think people understand how nasty, crooked the media was in the middle of that Joe Biden coming in, like all that bullshit that was going on. I mean, you can just tell us how it went down.
Yeah, they had such an army between the media and the politicians kind of working together along with Hollywood. You had that trifecta of power and voice out on social media and the regular media that just, if you did anything that they wanted to go after you for, you were done. I mean, there was nothing you could do about it. Once the target was on your back and it was painted, man, the word went out.
I'm going to say it and say what I feel. At that point in time, I think it's gotten a little better. Any interaction with a black individual was blown out of proportion, no matter the context. It got to the point where black dudes were pointing guns at cops and there was still an issue with them getting shot. And it was just a time that I never saw coming, where anything to do with a black American was, if you were white, it was absolutely wrong. Are you looking to boost your energy, focus, and overall well-being? Emerald Medical's hormone replacement therapy program is designed for people who want real results. Their expert team personalizes your treatment to optimize performance and restore balance, whether you're battling fatigue or you just want to feel like yourself again. Prices start at just $160 a month, and podcast listeners get 5% off with code COPVILLE. Veterans and first responders also receive exclusive discounts. Visit emeraldhrt.com to get started.
Yeah, and I remember after Michael Brown, man, before Michael Brown, there'd be a police-involved shooting of somebody and you'd reach out to him and go, man, are you good? Was it a good shoot? You wanted to know the facts of the case. Yeah. And then after Michael Brown, I think all of us kind of lost our taste for law enforcement for a couple of years, because it didn't matter where you went or what you did. It was always, hands up, don't shoot. And we knew that narrative was so false, and all the stuff that we knew in that case, it was such a lie that people just bought into, and you were so, kind of on your heels. And that was in Obama's second presidency, and the lack of respect for police was already out the door, and their emboldenedness had already gone up so much on the street. It was unbelievable. And so then when you'd reach out, you'd be like holding your breath going, man, was the suspect black or white? Praying they were white, because you just didn't want to have that negative interaction with the black person.
I actually had guys I worked with that said that, like, hey, you're in use of, I got no use of force. The first question was he white or black?
Yeah.
He was white. he was white. They're like, fuck it, it's good.
Yeah, it's
Like,
all good. No big deal. It'll be a blip on the news, maybe, if that.
and that's a
Probably
problem
won't
on
be.
the other side. You know, if you start overlooking use of forces that against white people that are wrong, they should be investigated the same as
Oh,
anybody else.
exactly. Use of force is a use of force. Just
Correct.
investigate. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Let's deal with it.
Correct.
So it shouldn't have different categories. But unfortunately, society's done that, and that's kind of where we're at. And in our case, you know, I went to the door that night, and one of the main narratives initially that came out was there was a no-knock warrant. No-knock warrants are bad. Let's ban no-knock warrants. Even Republicans up in the Senate were the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act for no-knock warrants, and they pushed it and got it passed through. And I'm sitting back going, but it wasn't a no-knock warrant. We were at that door for a minute, banging and yelling and announcing police. A neighbor even came out and argued with us because he said we were being too loud. So then when that narrative got spun, then it was Ben Crump came out and said, oh, they even had the wrong house, and Kamala Harris and LeBron James and anybody you can imagine in the realm of quote superiority in this country got on and jumped on that bandwagon that we were at the wrong house. She was in bed asleep. They didn't knock. They just barged in and started killing people. And we're going, whoa, wait a minute. We knocked. We never even went through the door, and I got shot. Almost died.
And that was the age of disinformation. And one of my biggest arguments since I did 23 years as a cop was the bad guys, and I consider LeBron James and all those people bad guys in this case because you're spreading disinformation. They can say whatever the fuck they want. Everything we do, and we should. We're cops. We have to hold a higher standard. Everything we do from the second we move and start an investigation to the end is under a microscope. Every piece of evidence, every decision, every thought. I understand that should be like that. We're professionals. We handle it that way. But when you're facing a disinformation campaign from people with millions and millions and millions of followers that can say something completely wrong and then the entire nation runs with it, that's a problem. That's a huge problem for those celebrities to get involved and have no idea what they're talking about.
And it's almost impossible to hold them accountable because for some reason the Supreme Court in their wisdom said that we as lowly cops making pennies on the dollar compared to what we could be making somewhere else, that all of a sudden we're celebrity status. We're public officials, therefore we're public figures. And I'm like, man, I was never in front of the camera before this. I had anonymity. Nobody knew. I didn't want people to know who I was. Yeah. I wanted to do my job and go home. That's all I wanted to do. So how in the world am I on this status that somebody like LeBron and Oprah and the president and vice president can come out and make all these lies up about me and people believe in it? Our reputation smeared, our job opportunities totally squelched after this. I mean, nobody would touch us. We were like kryptonite.
And that's the same.
There's no accountability.
That's the same party that preaches all the together and let's be one and let's make kumbaya, everything's great in the world. The same party that preaches that stuff takes a guy like you who's done nothing but be a spectacular cop your whole career, done everything right, and then they just spin the narrative against you. So that is like the opposite of everything they preach. And I hate to say it, but does it come down to skin color? Does it come down to the fact that you're a white cop and the majority of those are black celebrities and black
I was going to say, well, have you ever in your career seen the opposite, where a black cop killed a white person and it became national? I've never seen it. Maybe it's happened. I just overlooked it.
No,
every single one of them are the opposite.
Well, I think
and probably the most horrific one, real quick, down in Memphis, the 5 black cops that beat that dude to death. They acted like a bunch of thugs, which is what they were. They're criminals, and it's on camera. And that was in the news, what, a day or two?
That was Rodney King.
That
was no different than Rodney King. That was the same.
It was worse. He died.
Yeah, you take the skin color out of it. It was worse than Rodney King. And I think the closest thing we have right now in our current media is the stabbing and the Texas stabbing with the 2 kids.
Yeah.
If that was opposite, bro, this country would be upside down. And
so they'd be calling us back into work, is what they do.
We would be.
Answer my phone, I'll tell you.
Maybe for the National Guard, I might be get called back to the military at that point. It might be proportions of that. But let's talk about the raid, because you started to touch on it. There's so much disinformation that got spread. So take me to the Breonna Taylor. You started out with, you were at the door, you're knocking. Take me through how that unfolds. Well, first, let's talk about, more about the case. Let's get the honesty out about Breonna Taylor was a nice lady, just minding her business, laying in bed, had no connection to crime, and the big bad white police officers came to the door and killed her. Why don't you tell me what really happened with Breonna Taylor and how you guys ended up at her door?
People always ask me, why were you guys there? What was the connection? Because, you always heard, well, they were just there for documents and And that was partially true. But the reason we were there for documents and money is because she was an integral part to this organization. They were running a RICO case on these guys. And the main target, Jamarcus Glover, who was one of her boyfriends. And let me say this real quick. I'm not here to smear her, because in some ways she was a victim, because we've seen it our whole career too, where these girls who don't grow up in homes with fathers and their moms are not present, which Breonna's wasn't. Her grandma raised her. So she had a troubled life growing up. And because of that, these dope dealers, man, they prey on these girls. They see the girls that want the attention, that need the love, and they go after them. That's what happened to her. She was involved with a couple different ones. They were showering her with love and money and all this stuff. And so she fell into that trap. I don't think she was the one out there slinging, but she definitely played a part. So Jamarcus Glover, the main target, his ID was her residence. His vehicle was registered to her house. His bank account came back to her address. His cell phone was registered at her address. She bailed him out 2 months prior to this raid, because they'd done another search warrant on him, gotten 7 weapons, a bunch of deadly dope, and the judicial system just kept rotating. It was like his 7th case in a few years here in Louisville. And she showed up, she bailed him out. She gave her address as his, her phone number as his 2 months prior. There's video of her taking him down to the trap house. There's video of him coming to her house several times, getting a package from Postal, going straight to the trap house. So she was very tied into this organization, jail phone calls, talking about her holding their money. And even one of the baby mamas gets mad and says, why is she holding your money? Because she knew they had a relationship. He's like, well, she holds everybody's money. That's just what she does. So she was kind of the bag lady there in January. And the whole fact that she was this decorated EMT is a total lie. She graduated from the classes for EMT. And that's the picture you see her holding the little plaque and the flowers. And that's her decoration, I guess. I don't know. But she never made it through probation. She got fired with a no rehire clause. Right before she got fired, there was a vehicle that she had rented that they located a dead body in, a dude that was shot in the head, murdered. And when they came to her with it, she was like, oh, well, Jamarcus Glover took the car. I don't know where it's at. And that investigation kind of died. I don't know who was running it, whatever. It's not the big deal. But Bowman was the guy's name. And where's the attention? He's not getting it. You know, somebody murdered in a car that she rented that you hear nothing about.
Yeah.
And so she was definitely tied into the organization. She was part of it, and they were there to kind of wrap that up. They didn't even want her arrested. They wanted her on the team. They wanted her to give some information to tie these guys in federal court so they could put them away for a while, because the local judicial system was just letting them out over and over and over again. So that's why we were there. That's her involvement in it, and that's what brought us to that house that night.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting thing. Where's the Black community's outrage for the way these men treat these women? Yeah. I've seen it my whole career, where these young ladies have kids with 2 or 3 drug dealers. They rotate in and out of prison. They get forced to do exactly what you're saying. Pick them up when they're running from the cops, rent cars, then report them stolen when they get in a pursuit and crash it. Hide dope, move dope. I can't tell. I worked primarily in the Black community for 23 years, probably about 15 of it in the Black community. And how many times did I run into young females that are just brainwashed by these drug dealers, and they're doing the most stupid things, and you get caught. And then, like you said, I feel bad for Breonna Taylor. Like, I don't, she didn't deserve to die. And it's unfortunate that he put her in this situation, but why won't anybody say that? Why won't anybody say this career criminal that should have been under the jail continues to put innocent Black females in between him and the police, in between him and crime? And then when she gets killed because he's a fucking moron, everybody else is the problem but him. It's insane.
Well, Mike, let me take that one a step further. So this guy, Jamarcus Glover, the main target, he had more guns. He had more dope that they got that night on March 13th. When he goes to court, they dismiss all of his charges, even the previous 6, 7 cases that were felonies pending that you and I would be under the jail for.
Of course.
And they said, well, as long as you move back to Mississippi, we'll put all that stuff aside. You won't have to serve any of that. Within a month, he was locked up back again in Louisville. And what they do? They let him out. Okay, promise this time you'll really go back to Mississippi. He comes back to Louisville. He's selling fentanyl again. A 13-year-old girl, his girlfriend's daughter, dies of an overdose in his apartment. He gets caught again with guns and dope, and they finally lock him up this time. They still haven't charged him with her death, but you're talking about a 13-year-old innocent girl in his apartment that dies of a fentanyl overdose, and there's no outrage. There's no accountability.
So far we got three deaths because of him that we can account for. Breonna Taylor, the dude shot in the car that nobody investigated, and a 13-year-old girl.
Correct.
And still
Yeah.
nobody talks about what a piece of shit he is, what a criminal he is, how he put all these people, innocent people, in his way of his drug trade and in criminal enterprise. You guys are the problem.
Yeah. And let's talk about the boyfriend that night, Kenneth Walker, that was on scene. Okay. Everybody hears that 911 call. Oh my goodness, somebody broke into my house. My girlfriend's dead. I don't know who did it. That call came 6.5 minutes after the raid, after he shot. 6.5 minutes. He called his mom first, then he called 911, then he called Breonna's mom, and they talked for several minutes. His mom three-wayed in at some point, and they talked. He comes out. He finally surrenders 17 minutes later, saying he didn't know it was the police. When he comes out, he blames Breonna Taylor for shooting me. And I know she didn't, because I saw him shoot. And he later recanted that and said, well, he was just scared. But he also brought her into the hallway with him. And then when he shot and we started returning fire, he dove out of the way and left her standing in the hallway. When she attempted to follow him in the room is when she unfortunately got struck by the bullet from Miles that caused her death. But yeah, the dude there's a coward. He's a liar. And the media portrays him as some hero. Even our own city council said he shouldn't be locked up. He's a hero for defending his castle. And I'm sitting there going, whoa, 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 whoa. What about for shooting a cop? That means nothing in this city. And apparently it doesn't, because my city, my department still never has told the truth about this incident. They never combated any of the lies. They didn't frame the story. They let the defense attorneys and the civil attorneys frame everything and never push back. And that's the huge problem. These cities, these leaders are so scared to do the right thing and stand up and go, no, that's not what happened. And if they would just do that and push back, man, things would be so much better.
So how did the DOJ get involved?
Well, so Brett ended up getting, they came in immediately for civil rights violations, looking for something there. They investigated for 2.5 years.
Is that normal? I mean,
No.
I'm sure you guys getting a lot of OISs in.
Oh yeah,
sure
no, it's
area.
not normal.
So that's
the
DOJ,
DOJ,
out of character. DOJ comes in this case.
Yeah, this may be the first time in the history of our department they came in. I'm pretty sure.
Who normally investigates your shootings?
Well, it was normally our unit inside the department called Public Integrity.
Okay, so your own agency investigation.
Segregation. They had to pull themselves from a recusant. Our state's attorney general ran the case, and when they came out and said no, these guys it was self-defense. They shot a cop. They returned fire. They had a legally signed warrant. They knocked and announced. The witness says that when he shot, they returned fire, and unfortunately, she died. Tragic situation, right? Now, they did charge the guy who shot through the windows from the outside with wanton endangerment. And I'll explain that because everybody goes, well, why did he shoot those? That was reckless. And I asked him the same thing, like 2 months later, like, man, explain to me, what was your thought process during that? He said, man, I was the third one coming up in the stack. I couldn't get in the doorway, but I heard the gunshot and saw the flash. I heard you return fire. And as I'm coming around the front of the building, because I can't do anything on the side, I hear you say you've been shot. And I continue to hear rapid gunfire. So he thought we were getting assassinated at the doorway. And he's like, man, I got to do whatever I can to get the guy inside to quit shooting. Because when he turned that corner and peeked and saw the flash, in his mind, he thought he saw a long rifle, which isn't abnormal for eyewitnesses to get things a little bit confused in that traumatic, stressful situation. They see things sometimes that isn't quite accurate. Mm-hmm. But he knew there was a gun involved. He heard gunshots. He thought I was dying at the door, Miles. So he put some through the window, didn't hit anybody, didn't hurt anybody, yet he was charged on a state level. So when he went to court, he got done. And they were like, nope, in less than an hour, acquitted him. In a liberal city that doesn't like the police. I was shocked. I thought, man, he's going to get hung out to dry here. Well, as soon as that was done and he's kind of rejoicing with his attorneys and families, 2 FBI agents walked by him, tapped him on the shoulder and said, this ain't over yet. And they left. And they continued their investigation, the FBI and the DOJ from DC. And they ended up charging him with whatever the federal account is for wanton endangerment, but they added civil rights violation for Breonna and Kenneth on the first trial. So we went to trial, and it was a hung jury, 10 to acquit, 2 to find guilty. And I thought, man, there's no way they're going to bring this back up. I mean, we would take the feds some great cases with violent criminals, and they would look at it and go, yeah, we're not going to take this case. And they would give you some crazy reason. It doesn't match their little chart.
The feds only take slam dunks. It's got to be a slam dunk. They're not taking anything questionable.
And you get so aggravated during your career with that because you're like, man, I know the state courts aren't going to do much. Can we get the feds to do something here? And they kept refusing things. And then they take this misdemeanor case against a cop who's already been acquitted in state trial. And then they come in and they add this felony, which could include life in prison for a guy who hurt no one. And they get acquitted 10 to 2. So I'm thinking, man, there's no way they're going to come back on this. They look like a fool. Well, they did. They came back with another trial. We went to it, 2 weeks long. At the end of it, they came back and they're like, man, we got a hung jury again. And the judge admonishes them to go back and try and try and try. Well, this trial, Kenneth Walker refused to cooperate. So they took him off the count for the civil rights violation, but they added the neighbors behind Breonna Taylor because some of the bullets went through
for the
her
first
wall.
time. That's the first time they added them in.
They added them just to try to trump the charges up. Well, they come back and they're going back and forth. Go back, try it again, come out, hung jury, go back, hung jury. So I'm thinking, good. This will be another hung jury at best, and surely to God they won't do a fourth trial. So they come back and the judge says, well, can you at least come to a conclusion on one of the counts? The neighbors was count 1, Breonna was count 2. And they were like, yeah, we can come up with count 1, which the neighbors are alive. The bullets went through their house just like they did Breonna's, the same exact scenario. No one was injured, same exact scenario. And they come back and say, not guilty. And I'm thinking, great. If it's not guilty on them, the worst that can happen is a hung jury on this one. There's no way one can be guilty and one can be not guilty. So they come back out again. They're like, no, we're still hung up on it. The judge says, go back and try it again. It's 9:30 at night now on a Friday night. They're ready to go home. And they asked the judge this question. They said, how do we know if Breonna Taylor was alive or dead? Because in order to have a civil rights violation, the person has to be alive. Brett's bullet didn't kill her. The coroner said even if she had been at the ER at the doorsteps, it ripped through her aorta in her heart, she wouldn't have made it. She was gone
dead
quick
immediately when she got shot.
Yeah. So the judge looks at the jury and says, well, just assume she was alive.
Ugh.
And I'm going, wait a minute. If I had said that on the stand, it would have been a mistrial.
Yes.
If his attorneys had said that, it would have been a mistrial. Now the judge is kind of, come on, let's get this thing over with. It's late on a Friday night. Just assume she's alive. Go to your thing. They come back out. 4 of the jurors are crying, and they find him guilty. So now you got a guy who it wasn't his warrant. He's there to help. He's trying to save officers' lives. No one gets hurt from what his actions are. How we're trained? Absolutely not. But the biggest thing in training we're taught, Mike, is do whatever it takes for you and your partners to go home at the end of the night. That's what was ingrained in us. And that's what he was doing that night.
There's outside the box.
Yeah. So the atrocity of this guy looking at life in prison for hurting no one, for spending 20 years helping people, just blows my mind. Wow. The guy who shot me not only had all charges dropped, but the city paid him $2 million for his emotional damages while they're showing us all the door. So everything in this case is just so upside down and backwards. And, we're doing whatever we can to get Trump's attention on this, going, hey, this is a real injustice. This isn't one that's should even be questionable. You should be able to look at this and with the logical mind go, man, this is all screwed up.
And anybody who, that's what we want. Anybody who watches this that has any connection to anybody that can get Brett Hankison's story. I'm gonna put his picture up here. I brought it up here so we can bring it to the stage. If we can get this guy help, this guy's a great cop, did what he needed to do in a moment of absolute chaos. Sometimes you do things outside. You're not trained to shoot through a window. You're not trained to shoot through, but there's also things you cannot train for. And when you think your guys are getting assassinated, rather have a guy who does something different than to just freeze up and not do anything at all. And if you know anybody or have anybody that can get this story to somebody important, a congressman, a state congressman, anybody. I tried to get it to somebody that I know that's pretty important, and we're working on that, but nobody deserves to be a scapegoat for an absolute unfortunate incident. It's unfortunate all the way around. Nobody deserved to die. Well, maybe the shooter did, but of course he gets away free like everybody else, every other time. But she did not deserve to die. So it's unfortunate that somebody who did nothing essentially takes the hit for an entire movement of anti-cop rhetoric started by what I believe was the main government, the absolute federal government, the president.
100%.
They started an anti-cop movement, just like everything else we talk about on Antihero, killing testosterone, what we eat. Everything is about breaking down the strong men and letting all this other bullshit go forward. And when you have a guy like that, that's 20 years of service that doesn't deserve it, who goes through what, 5 trials until they find him guilty of something, is just absolutely insane. So if you know anybody, please get this out. Make sure you share it. And are you allowed to talk about the other stuff that happened with you?
What stuff?
The mom.
Oh, the murder for hire?
Yeah. So
yeah.
Okay. So that's all going on, and tell everybody this it gets wilder. Tell everybody this wild side of the story.
Yes. So in early May, late April, early May, I get these texts from one of our narcotics guys who's got some informants into some motorcycle clubs. So to kind of frame this, Breonna Taylor's mom has been involved in this black motorcycle club for years, and it's known in Louisville for its violence, for its gun dealing, for drug sales. It's just not a good club, man. There's some bad dudes in that thing, and her mom's part of that. And from day one, our mayor got on stage and was like, "Man, we need justice for Breonna Taylor. If I could fire these cops, I would," and all this stuff. And I'm sitting back going, "Wait a minute. You know the case. You know the ins and outs of it. Why are you doing this? Why are you promoting this?" And I'll get back to why he was in a minute. But in April, we had our late April, early May, we had some narcotics guys reach out to me going, "Man, our informants are reaching out with your name specifically, saying they took a murder for hire hit out on you guys." So they called Sin City in from Chicago. They came down and they met with them. Money was exchanged and a hit was taken out. And at first I thought, well, man, these are informants. You know, they get it right sometimes. Some of them are hanger-oners. Some of them want attention. They hear stuff on the street. Maybe this is just chatter. Because I know if my kid was killed, I'd say some probably crazy stuff too that may not be real, but in the moment of emotions, I said it. And so I thought, okay, we'll be careful, but there's no validity to it yet. And so then on May 31st, so George Floyd riots and Louisville riots started May 27th. The first night of the riots in Louisville, we had 7 people shot, and it was just crazy. It was off the hook. And you don't hear much about Louisville because you heard Minneapolis and Portland and all those places that got all the attention. But we had riots for almost a year. I mean, those poor guys were so worn down. So many guys left the department because they were like, "Man, I didn't sign up for this. You know, I signed up to help people. This ain't helping people. We're just getting ramrodded in our department's not helping us at all." And so when that came out, May 31st, I'm in my garage cleaning some stuff, 10:30 at night. It's a Sunday night. And I get a call from a guy that used to work for me who's been up in the Joint Terrorism Task Force for the FBI for 5 years. And he goes, "Man, what are you doing?" I said, "Man, I'm just cleaning up my garage, putting some stuff away." And he said, "I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you got to find somewhere to go." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you know those threats we talked to you about a few weeks ago?" He said, "We've got a new informant that just came in that actually is on an OSADEF case working for the feds that's implanted in this club. And that person was there that night that Sin City came in. She gave us descriptions. She gave us vehicle descriptions. She told us money was exchanged and they want you dead by Friday. This is Sunday. So Friday, June 5th was Breonna's birthday. And they were having a huge balloon release that was televised. And they said their verbiage was they want something more to celebrate than her birthday. They want the death of one of you cops, or if they can't get to you, one of your family members. And at this point, we had all been doxxed. We had already had people showing up at our houses. We had already had all this stuff, phone calls coming in, horrible messages saying, wishing our kids dead and saying, "We know where you live," naming our kids, stuff like that. So when that happened, I was like, holy crap. And I called my department. I was like, "Hey, what do we do here? You know, is there a contingency plan for this stuff?" And usually there isn't, because most 99.9% of departments don't go through this kind of thing.
No.
And if you do, it's probably one time in the department's history that they go through it. And so they were like, "Well, we can put you up in the Gold House downtown because we've got a contract with them." Well, that's right, where 7 people were just shot and they're marching around with posters with my face on it. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'll pass. Thanks for your generosity, but I'm going to pass on this one. And so I call around and we get a place a couple hours from our house out in the boonies. And at 2:30 in the morning, we get an escort of cars from our dignitary protection taking us down to this location. Had my wife, my 4 kids, 3 of them are adult kids, my grandkid, my sisters, my parents, because everybody had been doxxed. And so we go down there and we're just kind of in no man's land, right? I'm getting zero communication from my department. I'm reaching out, asking questions, trying to figure things out. And we're on an island. They totally distanced themselves from us. And it was the worst feeling in the world, being betrayed by the people that you had served. And a lot of those guys that you had helped along the way come up, gotten them out of some trouble, helped them. They get to the top and they totally forget about you, right? Because they don't want to lose their job, their prestige, or their potential chief's job somewhere.
So bad.
And these guys all of a sudden become cowards. And so now we're here, and I'm thinking, well, okay, at least the FBI has this case, because I was still naive, thinking, oh, we're on the same team. This is 2020 before all this stuff was exposed. And I'm thinking, good, the best agency in the world as far as investigation with all the resources. They're going to do something with this. They didn't.
No.
A couple days later, the guy from the 8th Joint Terrorism Task Force calls me and says, man, something weird is going on. He said the tops of the FBI are coming in asking about this case, and they keep saying the optics look bad going after a national victim's mother. And I said, well, what do optics matter if they've got a hit taken out on us? That shouldn't even be on the table. That has nothing to do with this. And they said, man, I'm just telling you. So I'm reaching out to the FBI. My attorneys are reaching out to the FBI. They won't talk to us. They refuse to talk to us and meet with us this entire ordeal. I said, that's fine. If you've got me as a quote suspect or a person of interest on one case, but I'm the victim on the other, why do I not get the same courtesy or I don't even get a victim's advocate from you guys? I know that's your protocol, but didn't even get that. So zero communication with the FBI, zero communication with my department. And all this is going on. A few days later, he calls me and said, man, I just got kicked off the floor because I got into a big argument with the SAC or the ASAC. And I told him it was BS that you guys aren't protecting one of our own. So they kicked him off the floor. He wasn't allowed to talk to the agents working the case. A few days later, he calls me and says, man, I hate to tell you this, but they totally closed the case. 10, 11 days in, I think it was 10, totally locked the case up. They threatened the agents who are working the case, who were actually good guys. They're not all scum, but these guys that were working the case were good guys. They were pissed off. They were mad, but they threatened with their jobs if they investigated any further. And I'm sitting back wondering, why the heck would they close this down? This should be a national story, right?
Yeah.
Because if not, you're setting protocol where people can do what they want. Cops are free reign, baby. Just put a price on them and they're done. No big deal. And so I'm trying to go through all this. I have a retired FBI agent who's an undercover guy for years. His wife was FBI, calls me and says, hey, do you know anything about Amy Hess? I went, who's Amy Hess? I didn't realize she was our public safety director. She had just come there in December of 2019. And so who's Amy Hess? He said, she is the highest ranking female official ever in the FBI. By James Comey, she was appointed to DC. And when she retired, she came to work for the city of Louisville as a public safety director. And I went, okay, what's that got to do with me? He said, well, I used to work for Amy. I worked with her and I worked for her. He said, the SAC at the FBI, a guy named Brown, he is her best friend. They go to lunch a couple times a week. They talk on the phone all day. I worked with them for both of them, so I know how they are. And she's not for the local police. I'm just telling you. I went, oh, that's interesting. Well, now who does Amy Hess work for? She works for my mayor, who's been calling for us to get fired, who's been calling for justice for Breonna Taylor. And I was wondering why so early on he's putting her family on his public platform on news conferences, letting them totally rip us and tear us apart while we had gag orders on us and couldn't talk. And I'm thinking, why is he so invested in this? Why is it? And then the civil attorney for Breonna Taylor's family, which I can't stand him, but he did a good job here. He brought out all these documents. He what's it called when he amended the lawsuit and added all these documents where the mayor's office was using the police department to get these two houses on Elliott, where Jamarcus Glover was, for gentrification, because they've been trying for years and the owner of the house wouldn't sell. And he had a map where they had sent out emails saying, we've got all these houses on the block, and they had these highlighted saying, we need these properties. So what the mayor's office do? They started a brand new unit. The very first case they did was Jamarcus Glover, that unit. And it was directed by the mayor's office. A deputy mayor came in every week along with 3 colonels, and got updates on this case. And I remember them walking in every week, and I was like, what the heck is this? I've never seen anybody from the chief's office, but definitely from the mayor's office, come in and get updates on case. Why is he so worried about this one petty dope case? We do 10 times this amount in a month compared to what this guy is. And come to find out, they were using the department to get these houses. And they did. After the case, the city got them for $1 a piece because they put all these charges and all these liens and fines on this owner. So he was kind of stuck. They got the properties and went, oh, light bulb went off. If it got exposed that the reason the police were even there in the first place was the mayor's fault, he would be the hero. So he had to flip it on the police to go, well, the police screwed up. They shouldn't have done this. Well, you directed them to do it. How should they not have done this? And so it all came down to him covering his ass because he did not want to go and get a deposition, because 2 days after it was amended, they met in the middle of the night, settled with her family for $12 million before any legal proceedings. And that way he didn't have to go under oath and be deposed on all the shady stuff he was doing, protecting his friends, giving them all the contracts, clearing this area out. So all that came from the top. The cover up came from the top. And yet we somehow were still the scapegoats for all of it.
And that's whenever the public says that police are corrupt, and they, you're on the street, you hear it all the time. You're crook, you're a crooked cop, you guys are all. It ain't the guys on the street, man. It's what you're talking about. It's that higher up nonsense that goes on that continues to fit my narrative that there is no thin blue line, there is no brotherhood. Down at the bottom is the guy you work the hood with, the guy you go, the guy you call every time you need a backup. That's the thin blue line stops right about there. Once you get above rank, when they say there's crooked cops, there is crooked cops, but it's not the guy pulling you over for your tent. It's not the guy pulling you over because you're speeding. It's not the guy writing a search warrant on your house. It's the people above that the only thing they're doing is protecting themselves, protecting their friends, trying to make money, trying to be famous, and move themselves around to be, get themselves into better positions, another agency, this, that, or get laid, get what, all the stuff, all the vices that people have. That's where the crooked cops really are. And I believe that the administration, once I got promoted and I started to see the nonsense that went on above me, when I'm like, none of this makes sense. I'm sitting in detective sergeant meetings going, the fuck are we doing? Like, what are you talking about? It doesn't even make sense. So what was the climate within the agency like when you guys are walking around, when all that's going on? What is it like in the walls of the brotherhood there?
Well, we were put out, right? We were put out to pasture. So I only got secondhand accounts of what was going on.
So you guys are out of work the whole time?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We were done. And again, zero contact with the department. They didn't want the guys to have contact with us. We were some kind of pariahs.
How many guys were there? How many guys involved?
7. So
all 7 of you were paid administrative leave and shipped out?
Yes. The other guys came back fairly quick. It was, real quick. It was the 3 that shot that stayed off for a year and a half, almost 2 years.
And the brotherhood of the administration didn't keep you well informed or check on your family or check on you guys
at all, man. We had to, anything we got, we had to just hound, and we still didn't get the truth. It was amazing how much they lied straight to your face when you had the proof in front of you. And so that told me right there that whose side they were on, and they were on their own side. That's all it was.
How does that work with like logistic, like your pay, your vacation? Obviously people probably don't go through this. You're one of rare people that sit out of work that long.
You get your basic pay,
and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And no communication from anybody. Can't work.
No, you can't. You're stuck.
Were you required to be at home like Monday through Friday, certain hours and all that stuff?
They didn't give us that, but that is in our protocol, whatever you're working hours, where you're supposed to be. What's that?
They didn't enforce that. You guys were just like, goodbye.
Well, no, we were all, everybody was 2 hours away, and they didn't care about us. As long as we didn't bother them, they weren't coming to look for us.
If they could have sawed that island off and sent you guys off into the distance and never saw you again, you think they would have done that? Yeah.
So my first day when I came back to work, I walk in and, I'm the HIDA director for narcotics. I had a good group of guys. I was poised to ride out my career there the next 5-6 years. And I walk in and I'm thinking, good, I'm back, right? I got shot in the line of duty. How am I the bad guy here? And they wouldn't give us purple. They wouldn't give me a Purple Heart. They wouldn't give the guys who saved me life-saving awards. They were like, no, it's too political. We're not doing that. And I'm like, what? Whatever.
Unbelievable.
Whatever. That's all
fucking pussies, dude.
But when I come back, I had a new major because the only person on the department that I know of that stood up for us was my female major at the time. And she had set in on a meeting via Zoom because everything was Zoom back then because of COVID. Mm-hmm. And she's a career investigator. She was a robbery detective, lieutenant, sergeant, came up. Now she's in narcotics. She had been in flex units. So she investigated. She understood the investigative game. And she fought to get in on the Zoom meeting because they didn't want to do it. Everything was real private and hush hush. And so it was the DOJ, the U.S. attorney, our department, the FBI. And she gets on the Zoom meeting and she starts questioning them. Like, how come you haven't looked into that phone call? How come you haven't done this? How come she started like going, this is detective 101 stuff you're refusing to do because it would make the officers look correct, right? It would prove their innocence. And they shut off the Zoom call, demoted her, and threatened, the FBI threatened to press charges saying she was interfering with an investigation for asking questions. That's how insane this stuff got. So she's the only one that I know of that stuck her neck out, and she got it chopped off for it. And I feel bad. I'm thankful for her, but I feel bad. And we still talk to this day. But
How
it's
does
like,
that happen, man?
it's
How
like,
does that happen? How does that
it's
happen?
unreal.
Again, like I said, like there are crooked cops, there are crooked administrators, and that's where it comes from. Is it's a cult. My new word is a cult. It's a cult mentality, and if you do not play by their rules at all times, and it could take nothing even as big as this. It could just be as simple as not agreeing with the narrative within the agency for something stupid. But when you get onto this level, this is why cops can kill themselves. This is why cops commit. It's not. I'll say it again. There are guys who definitely suffer PTSD from critical incidents, like outside of this, like dead kids, suicides, ugly crashes. That stuff does wear on cops. I'm not discounting it, but I am confident that the majority of PTSD and mental health issues by police are caused by the people within the building and the administration in situations like this. Doesn't even have to be this big. Just could be a simple IA, if it doesn't fit their narrative or they're worried at all that it's going to make them look bad, they are going to fry whoever is involved. And that is I take that stand
100%.
that's the mental health problem in law enforcement.
I said, this is the only job on earth that you've got to watch your complete surroundings from the bad guys and your administration, because both of them are out to get you. It feels like
The bad guys, they're coming, at least.
At least that enemy, right?
Yeah, you do know that enemy.
But the enemy within is the one that hurts you the worst when it hits you. And that's the one that makes guys quit this career. That's the one that runs the good ones off. And these slime balls see this as an opportunity. The cops that are slime balls go, ooh, I could do that. I could be a snake because I'm good at that. And they're the ones that climb the ranks. And not everybody at the top's bad, but man, a lot of them nowadays are. It's totally different than when I came on. When I came on, you had cops at the top. And when complaints would come in, they would cuss the callers out, the complainants, and say, get out of here. This ain't happening. You're not filing this complaint. Now they're inviting people to complain on their cops.
Yes.
They're passing out cards. They're setting up websites where you can do it anonymously.
Citizen
it used to be they at least had to come in and sign a sworn statement saying this was true, even though they would never hold them accountable when they figured out they lied. But now with body cams, thank God for them, because it's clearing so many guys from these fraudulent complaints. But the fact that they can do it anonymously and get guys hemmed up, get guys put on administrative leave while they're investigating this complaint that came from a ghost, it's just it's bizarre. It's mind blowing. And you talked a minute ago about dirty cops and how Hollywood pushes when a controversial situation comes up, they jump on board. Yet, like we have been, as a public, has been programmed to think all cops are dirty. You watch all the movies I like, I'm watching them, and dirty cops in it. Bad Boys, any of them. Any action movie has dirty cops in it.
Dexter killed people for 13 seasons, and he worked in the crime scene.
And you're like, no wonder people think cops are all dirty. It's entertaining, and we know it's not true, but people believe Hollywood. And Hollywood usually does tell us kind of the stage, what's coming next, as far as all the negative stuff, what the government's going to do. They prime you for it, they prep you for it, and then boom, it's here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I saw it firsthand. It's when you see that come from people that you worked with, and I used to go shooting with some of these guys, and my internal affairs that got me knocked down and demoted was generated in house. It wasn't a citizen's complaint. The citizens that I arrested didn't complain. They went and dug them up and went at it that angle. So now you talked also, you talk about this, some of the stuff the DOJ withheld during the investigation and some of that.
So there was
key evidence.
Yeah. So here's the one I think was the biggest that could have changed the entire narrative of this case. So the boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, the guy who shot me, he went to middle school and high school with a guy named Donovan Duncan, who's now a cop. And Donovan actually lived in the same apartment complex as Breonna Taylor as a courtesy officer. So he got a discount for helping the apartment complex out. They still talk on the phone. He and Kenneth Walker do, who sells dope. This cop talking to a dude friendly with a guy who sells dope, and said he talked to him when he came in and out of the apartment complex. If he saw him, they'd stop and talk. So that night, he's off duty. He's up in his apartment. He said he hears gunshots. He turns his radio on. Here's an officer shot. So he does the right thing, puts his uniform on. Unfortunately, didn't have his body cam on. Comes down. And like I said earlier, Kenneth called his mother first. So like any good mother, she came running to the scene. I would as well.
Yeah.
Well, when she gets there, she sees one person she knows that she's known for years, Donovan Duncan, this cop. She approaches him. So before this whole narrative was set, right, before the media pinned this thing as a no-knock, wrong house, coming in, killing somebody in bed, this innocent person, the other boyfriend had been in custody for 10 hours, which was all BS. They interviewed, our public integrity interviewed everybody on scene like they do on police shootings. You know, what did you see? What did you hear? Whatever they go through. So you got to swear in, right? They read you your rights and you got to give them a statement. On this video statement that I've got of him, he said his mom approached him on the scene and said, I don't know what's going on. Kenneth called me and said, they're at the door. She said, I said, who's at the door, baby? He said, it's the police. I got to go. Or he says, the police, I don't know what they want. And he hung up.
This is the guy that didn't know it was the cops. He was getting robbed.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, where that comes in is there were 4 phones on scene. There was one on each nightstand in the bedroom, one on Kenneth when he came out, one on Breonna's body. All 4 had active services. They only downloaded one phone that we know of. That was one Kenneth Walker had on him. And that's the one on there that had him, you know, a bunch of dope transactions with people, talking about home invading people, stuff like that. So this guy, again, was not a good guy. So the other 2 phones on the nightstand, they said they couldn't get into Breonna's because it was password protected and somebody messed with it too much and it locked it out. And now they can't get into it, supposedly, the FBI. The 2 phones on the nightstand, nobody ever downloaded the historical data to see what calls were made from it that night, to and from, what were on those phones. Was there other evidence on that phone? The FBI seized those phones. They've got them in their custody. In Brett's trial, his attorneys tried to get those phones admitted into evidence. Well, they're already in evidence. Tried to get them to be able to use at trial. The FBI wouldn't give them up. Said, no, we're not doing it. And we're like, whoa, 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 whoa. What about exculpatory evidence? I thought the defendant had a right to defend himself with all evidence due, you know, that was on the scene. Mm-hmm. The judge sided with the DOJ because the DOJ said, well, if they get a hold of these phones, it's just going to smear Breonna Taylor's reputation. Well, dude, you've been smearing ours. You've got one of us on trial.
Yeah, she's not on. She's not on. She's dead, and unfortunately, she's dead. But she's not on trial, and you cannot have a case as a defendant
and for whatever reason.
Flip it.
The judge sided with these guys and would not allow this evidence in the court.
Federal judge.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that original phone call made to his mom was on one of those phones at the nightstand. Probably grabbed it, called mom, said, "Shoot, they're at the door. I don't know what they want." Hung up, got his gun, got his clothes, stood there and waited for us, and they won't let us know what's on those phones.
Well, that destroys the whole narrative. That destroys the no knock. That destroys he thought he was getting robbed. That destroys everything about the case or the bullshit case that they put together. That would destroy all of it. And
that interview, for whatever reason, was never followed up by the FBI or the Attorney General. So
if you made a dope case against a dope dealer and you didn't bring a phone or admit a phone, and the entire case would be dropped the second the defense attorney found out that you didn't admit one phone. If you accidentally forgot to bring that phone, it's in evidence, but you forgot to mention it, it was a setup, you're a crooked cop, and the state attorney or the prosecutor would get on board and go, sorry, man, that case is dumped. That guy's going free. You fucked up. But if 100%. The DOJ does it, we can't let the narrative. You can't have a trial. You cannot have a trial without all the evidence being available to the defendant.
Yeah, their entire trial was not really evidence based as far as him doing something wrong that he should be in prison the rest of his life. It was all a character smear campaign. That's all it was. They're bringing guys up from, oh, well, what did Brett do 7 years ago? Well, on this one warrant, as the Bearcat's pulling up, he pulled his unmarked vehicle in front of the Bearcat and it caused a dangerous situation. Oh, so he's out of control. That's the kind of stuff they were putting out. You're going, what? No, he's pulling up to a scene. Okay, he pulled to the wrong spot. That is not an out of control guy who's looking to go and just kill people. So the whole thing was a smear campaign. But then when you want to bring evidence in on the other side, we can't do that. That's not fair.
You can't talk about something a defendant did 7 minutes before you arrested him half the time, let alone 7 years, because everything for a defendant, each case stands in and of its own. And that's a great point, because
unless you're a cop, then they can do it.
But that's not supposed. Even if you're a defendant as a cop, it shouldn't happen. I can understand if you're the cop on the stand testifying against John Doe. Yes, your entire life is now on trial as well. Everything you did.
I couldn't even say something. I couldn't even say something that was repeated to me at the doorway because they said it was hearsay. I said, what was said directly to me? How's it hearsay? Because Mike, the guy who was doing the ramp, said, hold on, I think I hear somebody. And so I repeated, hey, we got a search warrant come to the door. I never heard him. The Mike said he did. They're, oh, you can't say that. I'm like, what? How can I not say
Was
that?
he allowed to say it?
We're having a communication at the door. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what a wild, I mean, that's what everybody should be scared of. When you think, and they hide it behind the black white thing. But the guys the people that get in the comments, even on my page, and scream, the government's full of tyrants, you guys are servants of the government. They're not all the way wrong. I don't think it's us though. It's not. I always say the guy out on the street kicking doors, chasing bad guys is not
Really wants to
part
help
of
the community.
that. Yeah, they're not part of that.
Period.
But there is a part of the police department and the
Yeah.
government that people should be scared of. And if this case doesn't blow that out, and it's unfortunate that it's buried below the unfortunate death of Breonna Taylor, because there's so many things about this case that show you how tyrannical the government is and how corrupt the government is. And unfortunately it's hidden behind black and white and all white cops are bad narrative that it's more people need to hear this story.
Yeah,
People should be irate.
I definitely got a nasty taste in my mouth for the government after this, thinking, man, how could I have been a cog in this wheel for so long, thinking I was doing the right thing, trying to do the right thing. And we were doing the right thing. But unfortunately, all that gets so muddied up when you mess with the stuff at the top. I mean, those guys are just it's nauseating. And
imagine a community that doesn't care that they watch their entire police administration turn on their own people. So if you can turn on 7 cops in your agency, what can they do to the people? That would be my question as a citizen of Louisville, going, wait a second. So this good old boy system, they're all good old boys, but then there's this incident and then they turned on them. What are they capable of to us, the citizens? Like if they really need to get us out of the way, or they really needed us to be gone, or they needed us to be arrested, doesn't that show, like, to me, I'd be really concerned as a citizen to think if they can do that, if the DOJ and the agency can come in and screw their own people, what are they capable of to John Q. citizen? That would be very concerning to me.
Yeah, and when the DOJ came in to do their consent decree and wrote that whole large paper, that synopsis, I read it. It was full of so many lies and so many things that were just exaggerated or not true. Or they took cases where guys were complained on or had complaints filed on them. They were investigated, found unfounded or untrue, and they included that in the report as being part of the dirty culture that LMPD had. And I'm thinking, man, the DOJ, the stuff that I've believed from the past reading things, and I'm thinking, how long have we all been hoodooed, right? From the top. I mean, it's a psyop. Most of it is. And I'm going, I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but my God, I'm getting close now. I'm folding my tin hat somewhere.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
I was a task force officer for DEA, and I'm in a small area, not right in between like Orlando, West Palm, and Miami, where they have large HIDTA offices, and but the small area, and it was the same thing. It's very picky, choosy. It's very, we'll look the other way on that one. We'll get, or the federal prosecutor, like the cases that are just slam dunk, they don't want them, but then they go so deep into this one. What do you honestly, like, you're the chief, what do you think it was just saving their own ass, just at all costs to not defend anybody?
So our department's been ran by our mayor's office.
So they control it.
Control 100%.
Okay.
I've got firsthand accounts of meetings where the chief's been in there, and everybody thinks the chief runs the department. Some places maybe, our city no. Our one of our deputy mayors, the number 2 in charge, her name is Ellen Hesson. Nasty lady. I mean, hated the police. She held no disdain for it. They'd be at these meetings, and the chief would say, okay, we're going to do this. And she would cut him off and go, no, you're going to do this. And he would just go, okay, this is what we're doing. And totally changed. He had 0 balls, 0 authority. The mayor's office ran everything. Obviously, I mean, look, they ran what investigation went on that day. And again, that's why the mayor was so behind that, to keep the smoke off him. Mm-hmm. That's all that boiled down to, was covering his ass. And fortunately, he's done with his term. We got a new mayor. He did 12 years and totally destroyed our city. And when he first came in, I thought he was going to be good. He was a businessman, not a politician. He did good for about 2 or 3 years. And then all of a sudden, we became the 21st century policing flagship department. And they would go to DC and meet with Obama's administration once a month. And the department changed. I mean, we're doing genderbread training, pointing the parts out of male, female, and if they're male, if they want to be a female, and how to include these people, be inclusive of these people on the street. I'm thinking, We just fight crime. I don't care what you're dressed at or who you want to pretend to be. All we're doing is fighting crime. You call me on a crime, or if you're selling drugs, or if you killed somebody or robbed a bank, that's what we'll respond to. I don't care about what you do on your side in your personal life in your bedroom. It has nothing to do with me.
They shoved
But all
it
of a
down our
sudden we
throat.
became so
Yeah.
touchy feely, lovey. Don't act. Just let stuff happen. And it's just that changed the whole persona of our department.
How big is the police department there?
Well, they've got allotment for 1,350, but I think they're just a little over 1,000.
What do you think of DEI?
What, DEI?
DEI.
Oh,
Did it hit there? Was it in your agency?
Well, we've had, let's put it this way. Let me think. 3 of our last 4 police chiefs have been female. Does it tell you anything? Do you think, I mean, I have no problem with females being in law enforcement, but do you think do you think they're 75% of the top people that should run departments? And 2 of them totally shit the bed while they were here. The one came in her very first press conference in the city while I'm still working for her, got on TV and said, Breonna Taylor, this shouldn't have happened. This is a case of she didn't call it white supremacy. She called it, how did she word it? White reckoning. This is white reckoning. You can't tell me this is good policing. They would have never done this to white people. And I'm sitting back going,
what? Are
you just called me a racist and you're my chief.
Holy shit.
I mean, that's the mentality of bringing these people in. She was the same one that messed up Atlanta in that McDonald's shooting. She fired those guys and called them bad right away, and they all got their jobs back and back pay. And she looked like a fool there. So they thought, oh, she'd be the perfect person to come in here and handle this situation. And she came in and screwed it all.
The race thing just drives me. The race thing drives me crazy because it just drives me crazy. Racism is an ongoing. It's an ongoing belief by a person. That means everything they're going to do is anti, whatever they're, black, whatever. Because the victim happens to be black, you just can't paint everybody racist, and that is it right now. That is, I think it's getting a little better. But that time there and everything that was going on there, anything to do, I mean, even like Trayvon Martin, that wasn't even a cop thing.
Oh, I get so sick of hearing that.
And that was right here. That was, an hour and a half away. And it's like, that wasn't even a cop. And it's like, it just can't be that way. And I think that's the biggest problem is everything is classified racist. And then from there, you can't get to the right truth either way. Because now everything you have to battle the race. And what do you say when they accuse you? Well, I have a black friend. Well, you can't, you have no defense once you're called racist. I was called racist during my TikTok nonsense. And it was like, you can't, it's almost like being accused of like a sex crime. You once you get that classification, it's almost impossible to get out of it because you can't even defend yourself. Because what do you say? Well, I have black friends. Well, look at him. He's a white guy, says he has black. Then what do? You try to get your black friends to come talk for you? Once the racist card is unfortunate. Is there racism in America? Absolutely. Is it right? Absolutely not. The problem is when you classify everything racist, you take away from actually finding the racism and making a difference. Because I hate racism. If you're against somebody strictly because of their skin color, you are a fucking moron. Yeah, you are a moron because
you're missing out on all the good people in your life.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But when you also classify everything racist, you are a bigger fucking moron because you're letting the real racists get away, and you're putting good people in the crosshairs of a word, and you're fucking it all up. And that's what they do.
Hey, Mike, don't tell my 2 biracial grandkids I'm a racist, or they won't like me anymore.
Exactly. It's so crazy. It's so. And unfortunately for me, when I went through it, the black community came out for me. It was so stupid. It was a TikTok video that had the N-word in it. It was a rap song playing in the background, song that everybody sings. But because it was in the background of the TikTok, I was now racist for doing a video on it. Fortunately for me, I'm not racist. And the entire black community, other than like 2 or 3 people that had it out for me, came forward and like, hey, this dude, I worked with this dude's a good guy. But I got I got a tiny taste of what it's like to just get that bus run over you when you're not like that. And there's no way to get rid of it. It just sticks to you forever. And it was for about 6 months. Oh, there's racist. There's a racist. And I'm like, you motherfuckers, dude. It's so funny that like I combat racism, because if I saw racism, I was walking out of my apartment. I was a courtesy officer one day. I was walking out of my apartment, had I was a church clothes detective. So all I had on was a suit or a tie and my gun here and my handcuffs and my radio. I don't think I tied my tie. I think I threw my shoulder. I was walking out, and it was a primarily black neighborhood I lived in. And there was a group of black couple loading their car to go somewhere. And this white dude walked down the sidewalk and he yelled the N-word at him. And I was like, this motherfucker, dude. And I looked over at him. I'm like, what are you doing? And he was fucking jacked on cocaine, cracked out of his mind, sweating, big guy too. He's like, you see them blanks over there? And I fucking said, dude, put your hands on my car. He's like, and we went all out. I fucking grabbed him. He punched me in the face, and I end up in the corner of the apartment complex fighting with him. This black dude comes around the corner I know real well, and I'm like, dude, help me with this guy. So he helps me. He was sweaty, arrest him. And it's like, that is who I was. Like, if you're not gonna say that in front of me. You're not gonna, like, I'm gonna go off the rails if I see that type of behavior in front of me. Arrested the dude. He ended up going, of course, he got nothing. He was like mental health court or something, and all got squashed away. But what's funny is when I cuffed him and then I told the black dude what happened, he's like, bro, you should have told me that before we started fighting with him. I would have really gave it to him. And I was like, I didn't have time. But you can tell 100 stories like that. And you know, I got railroaded in that racial thing. And it just sucks because it takes away from the real pieces of shit who are racist. And it sets up society for, you know, the young kids hear that, oh, cops are racist. And it just continues to spin that narrative that we don't need. I see you got your book there in the background.
Yeah, man.
Want to tell us about the book?
Yeah, so I wrote a book just trying to get some of the truth out because we weren't allowed to talk. And that I had this book coming out, and that's one of the reasons I think the department threw me in. I never finished that story. So I go back to work and I walk in. I got a new major now because mine got demoted.
Okay.
And I walk in and he calls me in his office, and, you know, I'm ready to get back to work and do my thing. And he goes, man, sorry about this. And he hands me a piece of paper, and it's an involuntary transfer to the property room in the basement.
There you are.
I went, well, what did I do? I said, I didn't violate law. I didn't violate policy. I got shot for this place, almost died. My family's gone through hell. Why am I getting punished?
Thank you.
He said, man, it's just for the good of the department.
Yeah.
I'm like,
there it is.
Okay, I see the writing on the wall. So I needed to get the story out, and we weren't allowed to really speak in public without getting approval. Mm-hmm. So I just
bring it up. This is actually your book on Amazon. It's available on Amazon, and
yeah, that might be going away. I got the rights back to my book. So
okay,
you might
so this is
on my website.
Here, let's do that. I'll bring that up real quick. 1 second.
So
let's go.
JohnMattingly.com.
You keep talking, I'll keep typing.
Yeah, JohnMattingly.com. You can get on there, and when you do it, go ahead and shoot me an email with your address because we're still working out the kinks, and I'll send you a signed copy of it. But yeah, that's the way we're going now because we just got a Daily Wire went away from publishing.
Man. They did wonders with this picture, man. Holy cow. They made you look real good.
That's probably a younger picture. I'm old, and this process has aged me just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll do that to you. So let's add that. This is you here, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go here. Escape. I don't want full screen. So that's there. Let me go back. So this is a little bit about you, and you can order. You said contact there, the book. So we can click here. Yeah. And this takes you to the book. And you said email, contact you where?
Well, if you go on down, it gives you a spot where you can actually click and buy the book, or you can get it. One of them's from Amazon, one of them's from me directly.
All right. So the Amazon one is
one
gone.
for me to be signed.
Okay.
And in that, if you do it that way, you do include your email address in it. Just shoot me an email at johnmattingly.com or john@johnmattingly.com and include your address with it. So that way I don't have to reach out to you, but I will reach out to you if you don't do that, just to make sure until we get that kink worked out in that website. I'm not a big tech guy, so I'm horrible at this stuff.
Yeah, you see me screaming all over with this thing. So tell me, when is sentencing for your friend, Brent?
In June, the first week of June is when it's scheduled.
And he's it's up to life in prison for firing into a house, not hitting anybody. And
the same charge that when we arrested bad dudes on the street for shooting up cars and stuff, they would slap him on the wrist and let him out. It was unreal. Now because he wears a badge, it's life.
And he three counts,
totally destroying this guy.
Not innocent or not guilty in 3 cases, 3 counts in the state court, hung jury.
10 not guilty, 10
not guilty of the neighbor, and guilty of Breonna Taylor, who in reality they don't even know if she was alive when he fired the rounds.
And if you even look at the parameters of what a civil rights violation is, the code of it, This doesn't even really fit that anyway. It's
I've never
talking
heard of
about you're
this.
impeding people from going to and from, and you're like, how do you impede somebody that was shot on the ground dying when you're not the one that caused that? It just, I mean, it's totally set up for appeals, but unfortunately, the way the appeals system works, he has to be sentenced and go to prison before he can file the appeal. And they said it could take up to 2 years. So here, an innocent guy could sit in prison. Now I sit back and wonder, man, how many innocent guys have been put away? I mean, majority we know are guilty. They're dirtbags. But then when you're intimately involved in a case on the other side, it does kind of open your eyes a little bit to go, man, is our justice system really just? I mean, it's bizarre.
The government is rough, and the federal government, in my opinion. Hopefully, it gets better with the new changes and who's in charge. Hopefully, they make a transition. But I mean, when you have a president that pardons his entire family on the way out and weaponizes the DOJ to go after the former president, and you're just some damn cop in some town.
Yeah, you're nobody.
I have no faith in the federal government when it comes to that. So to recap, if anybody knows anybody that can get this message out about Brett and what is going on, we're looking to get this to somebody in Washington or somebody, politician that's willing to take a stand that, yes, unfortunate incident. God bless her family. God bless her. Nobody wanted her to die, but the police did not show up there that day to kill Breonna Taylor. It's an unfortunate incident. It's a tragedy, but these guys were doing their job. All the bullshit you heard was bullshit. Everything you heard here today really happened, and it was completely suppressed and hidden because there was a political agenda against these guys. And John, I'll let you finish up and take it away with your closing.
Yeah, man. So if like Mike said, if you've got any connections at all, it would be just a blessing. Because again, we're just nobody cops that worked. We're blue collar guys that went out there and got our hands dirty. And when these situations happen, we're kind of also looking like grasping for straws, looking for help anywhere we can get it. So anything you do, appreciate it. If you're part of a department that needs some training, I travel and do that as well. So just hit me up. And Mike, I appreciate you having me, man.
Yep. Thank you so much, guys. And if you can get us some help, get us some help. And remember that take care of yourself, take care of your family. The agency is there for a reason. The agency is there to protect themselves and protect themselves from liability, work with good cops, because good cops are working for the people. They're not working for the government. They're working for the better of the public. Like this guy here in his unit, they were out there doing what's best for the public, which is taking drug dealers to jail and making arrests. And unfortunately, somebody died in that, but they did not set out that day to kill anybody. They didn't do that. And unfortunately, the narrative was spun. So be safe, take care of your people, and we'll keep the good fight going. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right,
man.
take care. Yep.
I'm the only white face in this area. You don't belong here. Stop, I'll shoot you in the back.